Are you guys ready to get started?
I'm good to go if the
Yeah,
boys
I'm
are.
I'm I'm good to go.
All right. Tone, all I ask is that, go easy.
Yeah.
Last year, I just want to remind you that I had the Eagles taking Jordan Davis, and you told me I was like retarded, and then they took him and went to the Super Bowl. So just keep that in mind.
Well,
But
they've been trade up for him.
I don't know. But you were like, they already have Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargrave. There's no fucking chance they take him, and then they took him and they won or they went to the Super Bowl. So I was like,
Well, here's the other thing. I hear the Eagles are going to take Jalen Carter. So
Oh,
well,
imagine
okay.
they take
that would
defensive
be
tackles back
that
to
would
back.
be insane. Let's get started here. Also, I'm very much gonna need you guys to like keep on top of the whole like changing the screen thing.
Mhm.
I gotta go through a fuck ton of slides.
But you're
So
gonna say
I'll
the
let
names of
Scott.
the guys
I'll
as
let
well,
Scott
yeah?
take point on that.
yeah, I'm gonna say the name of the slides, but like I've got
Go.
it. Like I've got two computers here. I've got the slides on this computer, and I've also got them on the TV computer.
Cool, cool. We'll
So
remind you, yeah.
hello and welcome to the Boys Upstairs Show.
Let's go! We are back.
This is our draft preview show. We have a loaded barn here today. Scott is back, joining us from Ireland. So we're just gonna go pick by pick here. I just realized I had the first pick on screen already, so a little bit of a teaser there. But first pick on the board, Carolina Panthers. I remember last year I put like the NFL Films music behind the whole show. I don't know if I'm gonna do that again this year because probably illegal, but either way. First pick on the board here. I've got the Carolina Panthers taking CJ Stroud. I just like it's between CJ Stroud and Bryce Young, and I think that they're going to go Stroud. Everybody has their opinion on it. I think the Stroud's better quarterback. I don't really love either of them that much. I don't know how it's going to turn out, but this is who I think they're going to take. So
I mean, I think Stroud's a good quarterback. I mean, I know I've just been seeing that thing about how he got an 18% on that test.
What was that?
it's like a cognitive test that I Tone probably knows more, but
The
the last
Wonderlic, was it?
the first it's like Wonderlic. The first I've heard of it was last year, and I know that Justin Fields got like a damn near perfect score on it, and that was like a big story. But
He's QB1.
CJ Stroud got 18th percentile, which is like obviously bad. So
I feel like he didn't try at all. If you're getting an 18%, I don't think that test is going to be relevant after this draft because that information's not really supposed to go out. So
I know I saw that, and I saw like all the quarterbacks who did good were like Mahomes, Burrow, Josh Allen, like all like the top quarterbacks that like recently all got like really, really good scores. And then like all the quarterbacks who were maybe not as good got bad scores. So I don't know how much that is affecting his draft stock or if it even is at all. I've always thought Stroud is good. He definitely showed a lot during that game against Georgia. I mean, even though they lost, they really were in position to win. And I think that game he showed like in the biggest moment, he's going to be there because during the season, they got blown out by Michigan and like the most important, what probably to them is the most important game. And he had some ups and downs over the season, but I think he showed he can be a good guy in big games. So unless that test really means a lot to GMs, I definitely think he'll probably be the first overall pick.
Whoever they pick, they're starting now and they need to be a day one starter. I think it could be Bryce Young. I'm just swaying that way. I think they know what they're aiming for, and they're two. There's not much in the height difference. Obviously, Bryce Young 5'10", Stroud 6'3", but I think that I'm just getting a feeling that they're going to go Bryce Young, and I think there's a few things. Maybe the Heisman Trophy might play a role in that. Maybe there's a couple other factors in that. I don't know. I'm just thinking that they might sway in the Bryce Young direction, but I really think it is a coin toss either way, and I think it could be Bryce Young. But again, there's not much backing that up. It's just my gut is telling me there.
I think CJ Stroud's the best quarterback in the draft. Then, like Coby said, that Georgia game sort of solidified it for me with him. He was able to show up in a big game. He played really well. Yeah, there's not really much to say. In order for Bryce to be good, a team's already got to have an offensive line sort of set up. So I sort of liked him with the Colts, but that's asking a lot for him to fall to 4. So yeah, I think CJ Stroud's the pick here for the Panthers.
all right, well, we've kind of already hit on it, but there's been a lot of rumors this past week that because they hired D'Amico Ryans, their head coach, he's a defensive guy, that they might go defense here instead of taking a quarterback. I think they're still going to go quarterback. I think that it's all smokescreen. Maybe, if someone wants to trade up and get into 2, maybe they get a lot more out of the pick than just one guy. So I think that they go Bryce Young here. I think that, I don't personally love Bryce Young. I never have. I don't think that he's that great of a prospect, but I think that they're going to take him here. I think they need a franchise quarterback, and that's what he is projected to be right now. That's what all the experts say that he's going to be. So I can't be, questioning that at this moment. I think that that's what they're going to do. And he has all of the, resume that you would want coming out of college. So at this point, he could be Drew Brees or Russell Wilson, or he could be Johnny Manziel. Like, we don't really know. Like, he is extremely small. So it's just going to have to be a wait and see thing.
This is pretty spot on. I mean, I've heard things too that Texans aren't looking for offense, but I don't know. They've gone, 4 years now without a quarterback since Deshaun Watson got in trouble, or 3 years. At some point, you got to take a chance on someone. Obviously, Davis Mills is not the guy. But yeah, Bryce Young, indoor quarterback, I think it would suit well with this team. They got another pick later too, so hopefully they get a receiver or another offensive lineman to sort of give him weapon or give him protection.
Someone who adds to it. No, they definitely need that. I like the pick. I think like what you said there, Tommy, is completely accurate as well. I do not see them going defense. I think Jalen Carter's a great player, but I don't see him going to Houston. I don't see week 1 starter Davis Mills. It's not enough. And when you're in a position where there's actually quarterbacks that could potentially take your franchise to the next level, I don't think you pass up on that position when it's a position that you need to fill. And I just see them going quarterback. I don't see them going defense. I think it could be a potential smoke screen, which I don't blame them for, but they're going quarterback, and they need someone who can go in there and finally get this team on the map, because they're not playing in a great division. The division that they're in is in rebuild right now, so why not go for it and take a risk? And if it doesn't work out, well, hey, you're the Texans, so you might be in this position next year. Go for it and see what you got. But yeah, I see them going quarterback.
I don't know all the inner depth details of like if he eats avocados and that's a bad thing or not. I'm not one to rule people out because of size, and I'm not ruling him out. It's just that
it could play a factor, I think.
He's small enough to where it's definitely going to be a factor.
Yeah,
he's not just a little undersized, like he's short. He's 5'10". I look at myself, I'm about 6 foot, humble brag. And I think of myself on an NFL field, and I feel like there's just nothing. Like, I'll be shitting my pants out there.
We
but
saw
him at 5'10".
We saw in that playoff game, Kyler Murray against the Rams. It was like the size was clearly a factor. Like, it's a real thing. And, he might be good enough to overcome it, and they might have an offense where he can scheme out of it, but he might not. Like, the Cardinals have tried to build that roster and offense around Kyler, and it still isn't working. So
yeah. I definitely think they're going to go quarterback. I mean, they went defense last year, right? They picked Stingley. They have a run game with Dameon Pierce, who had a great rookie season, so that'll take some pressure off of Bryce Young. They have absolutely no fucking weapons, though. I was Bryce Young, I would go straight back to college or something, enter a 5th year, because Nico Collins, and I can't name one other receiver since they traded Brandon Cooks. I know they got I think Jordan Atkins maybe at tight end, maybe. I only know that because I played Madden with them once.
Stay tuned, Coby. Stay tuned.
But yeah, so I think they definitely need some weapons, maybe a little bit more O-line. But I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of guys who are 6'4" and they don't pan out. I'm more of a talent in mind before height and stuff. I mean, obviously it could be a little of a problem like Kyler Murray, but also the Cardinals are a dumpster fire of an organization. So maybe with some better management that you could do a little better. And also I feel like, not to say that the Kyler Murray plays Call of Duty or whatever, but I feel like Bryce Young might be more committed.
How do you slip that in there, man? What?
That came out of nowhere.
I feel like Bryce Young might be a more committed athlete, might be a more committed quarterback. So
his KD ratio is better or something, is it?
Yeah.
No, it's true. It kind of seems like Kyler doesn't give a shit. Like, if the Cardinals suck, Kyler can still go home and play fucking video games, and it doesn't matter. That's what it seems.
He could potentially be losing his best weapon as well, but that's another.
And Drew Baker requested a trade. There's that clip, if anyone saw it last year, of Hopkins yelling at Murray. He's like, "Throw me the fucking ball."
Yo, what you looking at, Juan?
Yeah. So I definitely think that this has got to be the right pick.
That's a good segue, because the Cardinals have the 3rd pick, but we have a little twist here. I have a projected trade that I am throwing in the mix. I only have one. I only did one mock trade, so this is the only one. But I have the Raiders trading up to 3, taking Anthony Richardson,
Oh,
quarterback from Florida. I think the Raiders need a quarterback. They obviously signed Jimmy G. He's like a bridge quarterback. I think that Anthony Richardson is the most talented quarterback in this draft based off potential. Right now, he's not a starter right now, but that's why the perfect situation for him is to sit behind Jimmy G for a couple of years. And I think that the Raiders are going to see quarterback go 1, quarterback go 2. Colts are probably going to take a quarterback at 4. They jump up to 3. Cardinals aren't going to take a quarterback. They get their guy at 3. And I don't know. It just seems like the Raiders would be the perfect team to take a guy who's like a big question mark, like unproven potential. Like Sam was saying, there's not like a Josh Allen in this draft. Like in my eyes, like Anthony Richardson potential is Josh Allen, but right now he's like completely unproven question mark. And the Gators sucked last year. And he's in the same division as Bryce Young. So same conference, I mean. And I just think that the Raiders taking their quarterback here, I think that that's what they're going to do. I like this move, but it's a big question mark. And he's going to sit for a year, maybe 2 years. So what do you guys think?
damn. I mean, it's bold. I don't hate it, though.
You want a quarterback that's sort of proven if you're taking him, but Anthony Richardson is the only quarterback in this draft, in my opinion, that it's all right that he can sit a year because, like you said, he's been growing a lot, playing at UF, and they were very good, but he has a lot of talent. So it does make sense for a team like the Saints or the Raiders. They have a bridge quarterback, but at the same time, they want someone to mentor.
I don't understand. Like, there's a lot of good quarterbacks next year, like you, Caleb, Drake May. I'm a huge Michael Penix guy. And I know there's 1 or 2 other quarterbacks out there that I can't think of at the moment, but if they're going to get a bridge quarterback, I don't know. I don't know why they just signed Garoppolo. I would think instead of giving up assets to trade up, they could keep all their assets and then have Garoppolo be the bridge guy for next year to get a solid quarterback in next year's draft. But that also could be me just being a Garoppolo fan and hoping they don't bring in someone this year.
My thing is like the Raiders last year, like I'm willing to swallow my pride and, come on this show and say that I picked the Raiders to win the division last year, and they fucking sucked last year. Like they were not good, and they had like a damn near all-star team on offense. So they are in a really good division, which is ruled by the Chiefs and will be ruled by the Chiefs. They need to either be really good right now or just try to hope and be good for the future, because the Chiefs are the Chiefs and they're going to remain the Chiefs. So, them taking like an offensive lineman maybe or like a defensive player at the pick that they have, and then, hoping that they're good enough to be a playoff team next year. Like, I just don't know what the end game is there with Jimmy G. If you take Anthony Richardson here, he might be Josh Allen in a couple of years, and then you might be, a Super Bowl contender. He might not be, but at the same time, like, I'm just saying, like, I hear what you're saying, Coby, but just like staying where you are and just like drafting like a, role player or whatever. Like, I just don't know that the Raiders are going to be good enough, like, no matter what. It's like the Dallas Mavericks, like sitting their starters and like being like, we're not going to be good enough no matter what, even if we make the playoffs. So it's like,
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I also agree that like Richardson has the most boom and bust potential. Like he's like a 50-50 type of guy. Like he could be like a MVP Cam Newton, or he could be like a New England Patriots Cam Newton, or like a second round Cam Newton. But I feel like the Raiders being bad had a lot to do with their defense and first year head coach. But I feel like their offense wasn't necessarily a problem. So I don't know, if I was the Raiders, I would rather get some defense because their defense was horrendous. I mean, I know nobody can stop Patrick Mahomes, but like they really were barely stopped Justin Fields. So
is that a dig there, or is that
the thing is, Coby, the thing is like the Raiders are at 7, and so I have them trading up here to 3. If they stay at 7, like Jalen Carter's going to be gone by then, Will Anderson's going to be gone by then. So you're not going to get one of those 2 guys who are like the difference maker, like elite guys. So if you stay at 7, you're going to get like, I'm not going to spoil my mock draft here, but like, not like a difference maker type guy necessarily, at least what we think right now. So,
what about that? What's his name? Tyree Wilson.
Well, I'm not going to spoil it, but we'll just keep going here. All right. Next pick of the draft. I've got shout out Martin for not being on the show, but I've got the Indianapolis Colts taking Will Levis here. So pick 1 through 4, all quarterbacks. The Colts need a quarterback. I think that they take Will Levis here. He just seems like an Indianapolis Colt, honestly. Like he's wearing the blue already. He was at Kentucky. They weren't very good. The Colts haven't had a quarterback since Andrew Luck. So they need a quarterback, and they have a Pro Bowl roster on paper right now already. So if Will Levis is any good, then they might be a true contender in a few years. So
do you think if the Cardinals don't trade,
Yeah.
Say Cardinals take defensive players like Jalen Carter,
Yeah.
and Colts are sitting there. Anthony Richardson, Will Levis. You still think they go Will Levis?
I mean, truthfully, I think that if the Raiders don't trade up to 3, I think either the Titans or the Saints will. Like, I think
Okay.
someone is trading up to 3 no matter what.
Okay.
But if Will Levis and Anthony Richardson are there at 4, I think they still take Levis. I've heard that they really like Levis. Tone probably knows more than I do, but I think that even if Anthony Richardson is there, I think they still go Levis.
Take a third round quarterback though that you know you can't play for a year. He's not ready yet. Like you take a
Irsay
quarterback.
does love his
Sorry,
white boy.
pick
Irsay does
3,
love his white
no.
boys too.
It's yeah.
Irsay
It's
does
cool.
love his Caucasians, but I think at
Yeah.
the same time, like Anthony Richardson needs a year, Scott. But if you
Yeah.
look at it, like fucking Patrick Mahomes needed a year.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it's some guys, you just like it,
I
depending on
agree.
where they were at in college and what system they were in. Like it's not a knock on them that they need a year, but
No.
it could be the difference in you being a good team for the next 10, 15 years or not.
Yeah, well, look, the thing is, some quarterbacks don't have that luxury of sitting back a year and
For
then
sure.
getting thrusted into it. So
For sure.
I think that is a great scenario for Richardson. I think with Patty Mahomes, I think the only difference is there he was, a little later in the first round when did get the pick. But yeah, I like Will Levis. I see it, and he's got grit as well. I think he played a bit last season with turf toe, so he's a tough guy. I see it happening, and like you said, there's worse places to be going than the Colts for sure. They have a good setup, so if you're a quarterback, I think you look at there going, I'm dealing with Jonathan Taylor. That's all right. Couple decent weapons. Yeah, I don't have any issues with it.
All right, let's go to pick 5. We've got Jalen Carter, first non-quarterback, first defense player. Jalen Carter going to the Seahawks, just best player available. Yeah. It's also a need, and he's insane. Like obviously there's off the field issues, but not necessarily really with him. Just kind of the situation. I think that the Seahawks take him here. And this is a good pick for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Seahawks defense has been bad ever since the Legion of Boom stopped being a thing. They really haven't been the same. I mean, their offense finally just got back on track. Geno had a comeback player of the year season. Metcalf, Lockett, Kenneth Walker was a stud of a pick. So I think that they definitely need to build on their defense. I mean, they possibly could get the best player in the draft at what pick is it? 6, 5?
Yeah,
that's
5.
Yeah, 5. They could possibly get the best player in this draft at 5. So I don't see how you pass up on that, regardless of what happened off the field. Like you can't if you want your defense to get better and you want possibly the best player in the draft, you just have to pick him. And
if you're a Seahawks fan, you're stoked. Like you're so happy. It's the Legion of like doom right now. They've done nothing. It is so tragic on defense. There's no pass rush. They just look weak. And I think the thing what we saw last year, like you mentioned, Coby, their offense was so good, but the defense let them down so badly, and that put them in like terrible positions because they just couldn't get a stop, or they couldn't pressure the quarterback. So, a guy like Jalen Carter is literally like, dare I say it, an Aaron Donald type guy who can really go in there and disrupt it, and has the potential to really do it at the next level and literally transform your defense. So I love this pick for the Seahawks. If I'm a Seahawks fan, I'm like, this is exactly what we need, and we're lucky we're in a position to get it. So yeah, that's my takes on it. Yeah.
The steal of the draft could be at pick 5, which is not something that like normally the steal of draft is like like a 3rd round or 4th round. The steal of the draft could be the 5th pick of the whole draft.
That's it. I agree that Jalen Carter is the best player in this draft. Will Anderson's a close second, but if you want to solidify a guy that is the best player in the draft, I'd say it's Jalen Carter. Everyone thinks he's going to fall. I just don't think there's any way that Seattle lets him slide. The only other player I think Seattle would take at 5 is Devin Witherspoon. But yeah, if Will Anderson's still on the board, obviously he'd be an option too. I just don't think Seattle's going to let a guy with Jalen Carter's intangibles just get past them at 5.
6. We've got Detroit. I've got Will Anderson going here. This is also a steal. Simply because quarterbacks are going 1 through 4 in my eyes. I think that Will Anderson is a great fit here. Obviously, Detroit has had, been in the news this week because of the gambling thing, but Detroit had a great year last year. I think that they're going in the right direction. They're trending upwards, ignoring the gambling shit. I think that Detroit adding Will Anderson here is a great fit. I think that he's going to fit in well with Dan Campbell and the grit that the Detroit Lions have on defense. And he's a great player. Like him falling here, for most of the year, he was projected to be the number 1 overall pick, and they're getting him here at 6. So that's a steal, and I love this pick for the Lions.
Love it. I'm just going to chime in there quickly because I don't have much to say on it. I just think it's brilliant. If you put Hutch alongside Will Anderson, oh my God. suddenly Detroit are looking like a legit team. Not that they weren't, but now you got two
And
pass rushers.
and the
that are
NFC
great.
North doesn't have Aaron Rodgers anymore, potentially.
That's it.
Assuming.
That's
So,
it.
shout
There's
out Jake for not being here, but the Vikings might be in trouble.
I think you get a young duo like that can literally dominate for years. What a position to be in. I love the pick. I think Detroit would be happy out with that. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I love that pick too. I mean, what was the thing though with the Lions last year was their defense. I mean, I think at a point, number one offense bought 32.
Worst defense. Yeah.
Worst defense. I mean, so obviously they have to build on their defense. And I think they're going to be a playoff team next year. I think they're right on the ropes of a playoff team. All they got to do is build on their defense. And what's the best way to build on a terrible defense is have a great pass rush. I mean, if you have a great pass rush and the quarterback's having trouble getting the ball off, then you can have subpar corners and stuff and subpar secondary because it's not even going to make it there half the time. I mean, this is just a great pick. They're going to have a fantastic pass rush, which is honestly probably the most important part of a defense these days is a pass rush. And I mean, the Hutchinson had a great rookie year. You throw Will Anderson on the other side. I mean, this team that was 32nd in defense just all of a sudden could jump up, be a mid-tier team, and have a great offense again. And that's playoff recipe.
I think the Lions are in really good shape too. Even if Will Anderson is taken off the board by their pick, because there's another guy named Tyree Wilson, who's probably going to get picked here pretty soon. But if they really need to go D line again, they could easily get another really good edge rusher in him. He's not Will Anderson-esque, but he's still very good, and he has the size and everything you need. And then with that being said too, Devin Witherspoon's one of my favorite players in the draft, so I think it'd be a no-brainer to take him. Their cornerbacks were really bad last year. And they added Cam Sutton, who is a really good player, but at the same time, I think he's more of a nickel, so they still are looking for an outside corner. So, yeah, they got a lot of options here at this pick.
All right, let's go here to 7. So this is Arizona because I had Las Vegas trading up to 3. So this is the Cardinals, as Tony just alluded to. I have them taking Tyree Wilson here. J.J. Watt retired, so this is filling a void. But the Cardinals just need everything at this point, other than quarterback, really. I think that they're going to go Tyree Wilson here. I have him as the best player on the board at this point. Just because he went to Texas Tech doesn't mean that he can't do it at the next level. So I really like this pick. And yeah, I mean, the Cardinals aren't going to be very good next year. They may have the number 1 pick in the draft, but I like this pick for them.
I like this pick. I mean, he's definitely a good player. I don't think him going to Texas Tech has anything to do with it because, another player went to Texas Tech and couldn't do it in the NFL is Patrick Mahomes. So that doesn't really bother me. I think he might be, at this point, the best available player. I mean, it's not Will Anderson or a Carter, but like picking at like 7, I don't think you really can expect one of those guys to be on the board still. So I think this is great for what they're going to get. I mean, the only thing that really is going to save this Cardinals team is if the big board has Jesus Christ on it, because I mean, Buda Baker wants out of there. DeAndre Hopkins wants out of there. Murray.
That was a good clip, Coby. That was a good clip.
That's the one right there, man. That's the one.
Kyler's not going to be back right away. Hopkins and Baker want out. They're really working. They have like no receivers. They have Hollywood and like
I think that D Hop's getting traded on draft night. I just want to throw that prediction out there.
I like that too.
He's out of there soon, but they really got nothing. I mean, James Conner isn't really all that. He's a LeGarrette Blount. You give it to him at the 1, he could punch it in. They really don't have any weapons. They don't have a lot of anything. They have they're in a rebuilding phase. They're trash right now. They're going to be struggling for some years. So unless Jesus Christ himself is on that board, anything helps. Yeah. Literally anything helps. So this is about as good as it's going to get for if they were to have pick 7.
I mean, I'll be short and sweet here, like the Cowboys in the playoffs. But I mean,
shout out you, Scott. Shout out you.
That's all right. Respect it. No. Like you said, you need nearly everything. So you look and go, who's the best player available? Okay, we'll go with that. And that is this pick. I mean, the Cardinals need literally everything. So I like this pick. I think that it's tough for Cardinals because they're probably going to have a top 10 pick again next year. Just say how it is. They need a lot of things and they need a lot of help. So, yeah.
So from this point on, we're going to go 4 picks at a time just so everybody's
you're not giving the Bears their own...
No. Oh, you can talk game though on the Bears, man.
When we get to the Bears, you can jump in first, obviously. But all right, so we'll just jump in here. We've got Atlanta taking Christian Gonzalez. I think that obviously they have a lot of needs as well. Last year they went Drake London, and I remember I had them taking, I think, Chris Olave in my mock draft, or maybe Drake London. I don't remember. And I remember Tone gave me a lot of shit because they definitely weren't going to take a wide receiver, and then they did. But either way, I think they're going to take Christian Gonzalez here. He's the best corner of the draft, in my opinion, and he fills a void. I think that the Bears are going to take Pete Skoronski.
Whoa. Hold it right there.
Let's go.
I knew this was coming.
Let's go.
I knew this was coming. All right. So the whole stigma right now is that the Bears are going to draft Peter Skoronski. And you know why that is? It's because he's a white kid from the Midwest who went to Northwestern.
Northwestern is
And he's an
Chicago.
offensive lineman. Sure, we need an offensive lineman, but you can get those through trades and later in the draft.
Dude,
I think right here.
Damn, did you not watch Justin Fields last year run for his life every fucking play? Like, you
Dude,
need
they're
offensive
so-
linemen.
Don't tell me what I did or did not watch, because I did watch it. I'm not telling you we don't need offensive linemen. I'm just saying there's so many offensive linemen available in the draft that there's plenty of time to get another one. When right here you're banking on Tyree Wilson, Jalen Carter, and Will Anderson all being gone by 9. I don't think that happens. And if they are, then maybe we could talk Pete Skoronski. But I think they take a defensive player here. If they need a defensive player, they've got a fuck ton of picks later in the draft for
All right, so but just
and
okay.
I think Paris Johnson Jr. goes over Pete Skoronski because Peter Skoronski is a kid from Illinois who went to Northwestern. That's literally the only reason he would get drafted over Paris Johnson or Tyree Wilson if available, or what's his face? Why am I blanking on it? Miles Murphy.
All right.
It was never the homecoming for Bears fans, Sam. Never the homecoming.
All right,
I'm not sold on it.
Let me just rebuttal Sam here real quick. I think that, obviously he is a white kid from Northwestern, which is in Chicago. But regardless of that, in my mock draft, Will Anderson and Jalen Carter are gone. So you can't just be like, I hope we get Will Anderson and Jalen Carter. Like, they're off the board.
I'm saying if I don't think Tyree Wilson's going to be gone by then, but I'm saying even if all the guys you say are going to be gone are gone, I think it's Paris Johnson or Miles Murphy.
Well, that's your opinion. I think that they need an offensive lineman here, and I think that between Skoronski and Paris Johnson, my sources, who may or may not be a scouting intern at the Pittsburgh Steelers, say that Paris Johnson is not as good as people think he is. So I think that Skoronski is the pick here. I like him. He's a Northwestern guy. And they need a tackle to project Justin Fields. That's just what the reality of the situation is.
Well, yeah, of course they do. They also need a lot of things that they
need a lot of things. They need defense too, but at the same time, it's like you are buying in on Justin Fields. Justin Fields is now your guy, and you need to protect him. He was running more than any quarterback in the league last year, maybe other than Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe other than Kenny Pickett.
Though. My point is that that if you have a chance to take a lockdown or a shutdown defensive guy there, you should, because there's not as many of those available as there are offensive linemen. There's a lot of flexibility for offensive linemen in this draft. Not a lot.
I mean, there are a lot of offensive linemen in this draft, but not everyone is going to be good. Like, we don't know which one of these guys are going to be bust yet. But at the same time, it's like I have Skoronski being the number one offensive lineman taken here. I think that Paris Johnson Jr. could be good. I don't know that he's going to be good or not, but I think that right now at this pick, Skoronski just makes more sense for the Bears. They could go defense. I think Tyree Wilson's going to be gone. That would make sense as well. Will Anderson, obviously, Jalen Carter, obviously. But I think that right now at this pick, if you get Skoronski here, I think that you're feeling good if you're a Bears fan. Like,
I'm not going to be upset. I'm not going to be upset with it. Like, I'm
not allowing this talk on Skoronski, my guy, who came over to Ireland in the Ireland.
He played in Dublin last year. Scott saw this guy play.
Saw this dude.
I like the guy. I'm not saying I don't like him.
I was standing on the touchline. Skoronski walks by me, and I'm like, you look at this guy, and you're like, he's a top 10 pick. He just had that aura, and then he came, and in that match, this Northwestern team struggled last year. They won one game. They it wasn't a great game at all, and the game that they won was in Ireland.
They beat Scott Frost.
But having said that, Skoronski stood out when you watched that game, and when I'm standing up there,
that's crazy that they won 0 games in America last year. Like, that is a crazy stat.
Season for Northwestern fans.
I thought they won one game.
But I'm gonna be honest, like, Skoronski was incredible to watch, and he's the best offensive lineman in my eyes in this draft. He was dominant. It was nearly the case. And I've gone through like all these images and stuff that we have, and there's certain things where I see the way his footwork and see the way he's holding guys, and literally not offensive holding either. He's property. He knows it where his hand placement is good. He's just a full on great offensive lineman. He's polished. He's good to go. Bears need help on the O-line. I get what you're saying about the defensive line as well, Sam. I understand it.
Yeah,
but,
so just
I mean,
one closing point for me. Listen, that clip of me might make it seem like I don't like Pete Skronsky. I love Peter Skronsky. I think he's a great player, and I think he'll do great if the Bears draft him. But I think people are jumping to the conclusion too early that the Bears are going to draft Peter Skronsky just because it makes sense.
okay.
When
That's
there's
my,
a lot of other
my,
guys
my
doing
thing
it.
is like I
That's
have
my
the Bears
point.
drafting Peter Skronsky because I have Jalen Carter, Christian Gonzalez, Will Anderson, and Tyree Wilson all off the board at that point. Like
I don't think they take a corner. No.
If any of those 4 guys are there, maybe they pick them. But at the same time, it's like in my mock draft, I don't have them being there, and they need an offensive lineman. Like that is a need, regardless of the fact if Jalen Carter's on the board. Like
I'm not denying that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I'll just keep going here. So I have the Philadelphia Eagles. Shout out the Eagles for being in the Super Bowl and having a top 10 pick. I have them taking Nolan Smith from Georgia, edge. The Eagles have, a great roster. Obviously, they were in the Super Bowl last year. They lost a couple guys in free agency. They could go in a couple different directions here. Nolan Smith is one of the best players on the board at this position. I think that, Hassan Reddick and Brandon Graham are both kind of up there in age, Brandon Graham especially. And I think that Nolan Smith here just makes sense. And you're pairing him with Jordan Davis on the D-line. I just love this pick for the Eagles, honestly. And then I have Paris Johnson going to the Titans at 11. Taylor Lewan retired or / cut. I don't really know what he's doing yet, but they need a tackle. If Derrick Henry is there, regardless, they need a tackle to protect whoever the quarterback is going to be. But yeah, I like Paris Johnson here. I'm not necessarily 100% sure that the Titans are going to not trade out of this pick or up. They might not be in this pick, but if they stay in this pick, I think they need an offensive tackle. So I've got Paris Johnson going there.
Okay.
Yeah, I like some of your picks, but the only thing I'd like to say is that the Falcons, they just traded for Okuda, correct? And they spent a second or third round pick on that. They already have Terrell. They just signed Bates.
I think it was a fifth.
Oh, a fifth, whatever it was, a fifth on it. They just signed Bates. So I think they've done a lot of work to their secondary. So personally, I think potentially, I'm no scout, but I think potentially Atlanta might be where we could see the first receiver taken, or maybe some type of offensive weapon. I feel like, Ritter at
back-to-back years.
Ritter at the helm. I feel like they need more weapons. Who else do they have besides Drake London? Like Pitts, who didn't touch the ball for 16 consecutive weeks, which happens to be an NFL season.
Cordero.
He's a running back though.
He's everything. He's a Swiss
He's
Army.
the most underrated player in the NFL, Coach.
No, he's great. He's great. But I'm just saying, I feel like they just put a lot into their secondary. I feel like they might need an offensive weapon, especially with Ritter, who didn't look too promising. It was just his first couple of starts, but I feel like they might want to help out the offense more than the defense. But that was just my thoughts. Chicago could go O-line or D-line. I like the Eagles pick because the Eagles offense is set. The only thing they really need is a running back. And I like all the picks, except I just think Falcons might go more offense.
Let's go to the next 4 here. So we've got Houston taking Jackson Smith and Jigba. Obviously pairing him with with Bryce Young. Sorry, that is a kind of Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Kenny Pickett, George Pickens type pairing. They're both young guys. They didn't play together, but I think that they can develop together. I have New York taking Broderick Jones. They're replacing McCabe Becton. I think that they need a tackle. If they get Aaron Rodgers, obviously, then this would be a great steal. I think Broderick Jones is really good. Him falling to 13 here, I think, is a good pick for the Jets. I've got New England taking Devin Witherspoon. This is also a little bit of a fall here for him to 14. A lot of mock drafts, I've have him in the top 10. So I think this is a good pick for the Patriots. And then I've got Green Bay taking Brian Branch, which is a little bit of a reach, but I think that he fits well with their needs. They also kind of like Tennessee, like Arizona, they need a lot of stuff. They're probably not going to be good this year, but I think that Brian Branch fits in well.
If Witherspoon falls to us, I'd be ecstatic. We need receiver and corner. If we're talking about team needs, those two better be the only thing it says highlighted. If the Patriots take another offensive lineman in the first round, I will boycott football for this season. I will literally fly to New England myself, and I don't even know, throw a stink bomb into Foxborough because we need a receiver in a corner.
You're on the watch list now, man.
We have no corners. we re-signed Jonathan Jones. He's an absolute a slot corner. He played outside. He got tore up. Jack Jones and Marcus Jones are good, but they're not. We're not going to live off that. So I think we need a corner. So I'd be great with that. I also think though there's a chance we take a receiver.
Yes.
I like Najigba Smith the best. So if he's gone, then I don't know. But hopefully we take a receiver or corner. I like Najigba Smith going to the Texans. I feel like if Young's gonna have to get the ball out quick, that's gonna be perfect. Just a slot guy who's really good for Young. I like the other picks. I mean, Green Bay, they lost. If they lose Aaron Rodgers, that's the whole team. It's like it's basically they have to reset. So that's a good pick. But hopefully we take a corner or a receiver. I really like this pick for us.
It's such a Pats move for you guys to go cornerback. It's such a Pats move. It's written in the stars. Like honestly, yeah. I don't have much to say on this because I kind of do agree with it. A lot of it, especially the Texans. I think if the Texans. Oh my God. Time's really getting to me over here, lads. Jeez, can't even speak.
What time is it? Shout out Scott, by the way. I think it's
no. It's
midnight
20
over there, so.
past 11, but I mean, a few loose enough nights in Dublin City, so they're all kind of hitting me at once now. No, I think in wide receiver, I look here. The interesting thing about wide receiver, and Coby, you mentioned on it here, and I think when we get to these kind of later sort of early mid-round picks is when we might see the wide receiver train kind of take off. When you look at wide receivers, Jordan Addison, 6 foot, Zay Flowers, 5'10", Jackson Smith, 6 foot, Jalen Hyatt, 6 foot. One guy stands out, Quentin Johnson, 6'4". If you're going for a big bodied wide receiver, you want a dominant guy in the air, he could be the move there. He's something that like he's not as polished as the other guys, but he's raw and he's got that height, got the hands to do it with the TCU team that that got trounced in the national championship. We'll say how it is. But he offers something different. So I'm not surprised if he maybe leapfrogs one of these other guys in the sense of it's a different perspective altogether. And I'm not going to compare him to Megatron because that's just way out of order.
Don't do that, Scott. Don't do that.
And that's I'm not doing that. But I'm saying this guy, he's a big body wide receiver who has the potential to go early, and I his height can play a factor because he's just that bit different than these other wide receivers here. But I definitely think the Pats if the Pats get Witherspoon, I'm just like, it's like a given. Like, Jake Lewis in Square Grouper on a Saturday. I mean, it's just a lock, like, But anyway, yeah, I like the picks. I like them.
I will say the one thing that I have to say is Brian Hartline, former NFL great Caucasian wide receiver. He was the wide receiver coach for Ohio State. And at the time when Jackson Smith-Njigba and Garrett Wilson were both on the team, Brian Hartline said that Jackson Smith-Njigba was the best wide receiver on the team. So, for what that's worth, Garrett Wilson was incredible last year for the Jets. So the next 4 here, we've got the Washington Commanders. This is a pick that I absolutely love, taking Dalton Kincaid, tight end out of Utah. I think that this pick is going to be an all-time pick, honestly. Like, I love this pick. Eric Bieniemy is the new offense coordinator of the Washington Commanders. I think that Dalton Kincaid fits perfectly into a Travis Kelce role in that offense. I love that pick. And he absolutely dominated USC. I think that he is going to be really good in that offense. I've got the Steelers taking Darnell Wright out of Tennessee tackle. I think the Steelers need offensive line, obviously. And this dude is the best tackle on the board at this point, I think. So Steelers taking Darnell Wright. He's 6'6", 335. That is a great frame. I like that pick for the Steelers, and we need offensive line. I've got the Lions taking Joey Porter Jr. They need corners. I think that pick is good for the Lions. He kind of fits the, Dan Campbell grit type role. I think that's a good pick for them. And I've got the Bucs taking Lucas Van Ness. They also kind of need everything. They are in the NFC South, though, which is really bad. So, Baker Mayfield / Kyle Trask, they still could be contending in that division. I think that Lucas Van Ness is a good pick here. Like Tone said earlier, he didn't start, and that's kind of the knock on him. But that's just like, the seniority thing that Iowa has is tradition. It doesn't really mean anything. He is going to be really good for the Bucs, though. I like that pick for them at 19.
I don't have much to say about these picks. I really like the Washington pick. I mean, they're going to start Sam Howell, I'm pretty sure, to open up the year. So give him whatever weapons you can aside McLaurin. I know they got like Logan Thomas, but he's old. I like the Steelers pick. I love the Lions pick. I mean, if they get Will Anderson already with their first pick, and then they get a secondary player who's as good as Joey Porter Jr., who honestly could have potential to be the best corner in this draft. I think that's great for their defense. I mean, that if they come out with their 2 first-round picks like that, I think they almost have won this draft already just in the first round. The only thing I'm gonna say is the Bucs. I like this pick, but I think if the Eagles do trade out of their pick, I think that they might pick Nolan Smith if he's still here at this pick. And also they just lost Lenny Fournette. Who knows? Maybe, you got a mediocre quarterback starting. So maybe a Bijan Robinson here to spice up this offense.
I've heard that rumor.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. I mean, drafting a running back in the first round obviously has a bad stigma, but this could be a place if they want to help that offense, because they kind of need it with the quarterbacks they're going to have starting. But if not, if Nolan Smith is taken and they don't want a running back, I do like that pick.
Can't comment on the Steelers pick. I like Tampa Bay taking Lucas Van Ness too. They're another team. I mean, they went all in with Tom Brady, so now they're starting to reap those benefits, and I think they're going to have a couple of down years here.
Kincaid scares me as a Cowboys fan because I'm like, this is the type of name that you just know you're just going to hear Kincaid touchdown, whatever, Washington take the lead. I don't want to hear that. But it seems pretty inevitable. And if it's not him, it'll probably be Jahan Dotson that I'm going to hear.
Jahan Dotson, what a pick that was.
Sam Howell came in and he absolutely embarrassed the Cowboys near the end of last season. So Washington aren't going to sit down and take a beating for much longer. They're going to get stronger each year, and with this pick, they're just doing exactly that. And
they're the Washington Commanders. They'll be mired in mediocrity until time ends.
I just also want to shout out the fact I forgot about this till now. I had the Washington Commanders taking Jahan Dotson last year, so
you did actually. In fairness,
I've picked the Steelers pick perfectly the last 2 years.
Dude, everybody and their mom had the Steelers taking Kenny Pickett last year. I had us taking Taylor Lindenbaum, center out of Iowa. He went to the Ravens.
What we got, Tommy?
All right, so we've got Seattle at pick 20, taking Hendon Hooker, quarterback out of Tennessee.
Oh!
I've got Hendon Hooker sitting behind Geno Smith for a year, maybe 2 years, maybe 3 years. Obviously, Hendon Hooker's 25, so that's kind of a question mark in terms of like you can't really have him sitting for 2 to 3 years because he's going to be 28 by that point, but regardless, I have Seattle taking him there. Seattle was a playoff team last year, and they have 2 first-round picks in the top 20. So, they're going to have to, maybe potentially take a quarterback. And Geno Smith is already old. He's not going to be their long-term quarterback. I like Hendon Hooker here for Seattle. Then I've got Kalia Cansey going to the Los Angeles Chargers at pick 21. They need defensive line. He is, been compared to Aaron Donald coming out of Pitt. He's pretty short, so they've got the similar comparisons. I like that pick for the Chargers. They, obviously need a lot of things on defense. They weren't as good as they were supposed to be last year, and they're in a very tough division. I've got the Ravens taking Deonte Banks, cornerback out of Maryland, staying home, going to the Ravens. I've seen a lot of things here that they might be taking Jordan Addison. I think that is potential to be the case, but I think they're going to take Deonte Banks. They need a corner opposite Marlon Humphrey, and Marlon Humphrey is kind of injury prone. So they need corner. They need secondary help. They took Kyle Hamilton last year, and I think they take Deonte Banks here. And then I've got the Vikings taking Jordan Addison, wide receiver out of USC. They lost Adam Thielen this year to the Panthers. I think that Jordan Addison is the best wide receiver in this draft. I like him over Jackson Smith-Njigba. I think that Smith-Njigba is going to go ahead of Jordan Addison, but I like Jordan Addison more. And going to the Vikings here, I think that's a great pick. The Vikings are kind of in a weird place where they've got Kirk Cousins on the last year of his contract, but they've also, potentially stepped into a division where they're just going to automatically win. Maybe the Lions win, but the Packers are out of it, and they've got Kirk Cousins for one more year. So they're in an interesting spot. But I think that if you have Justin Jefferson and you have Jordan Addison on opposite sides of the field, that is pretty scary. So
I think that's a good pick for Seattle. They obviously, he got them to the playoffs. He did what he needed to do, but he's never been the guy. I think he's a really good bridge quarterback, as we've been saying. And then the Chargers taking Cansey. Cansey's a tough pick just because, like we said, his size. He ran really good at his pro day and the combine, but at the same time, he's going against some big boys in the NFL. And I'm not dissing ACC football, but that competition is not the same offensive lineman wise as like the SEC. So I like your other 2 picks though too.
Yeah, I mean,
Scott, but shout out to Tone for like not tearing me apart, because I was coming into this like Tone is going to absolutely eviscerate my picks here. So shout out to Tone for not doing it.
I tell you what, they've been better than the divisional picks last year, man. I'm gonna throw digs there.
Shout out Scott for absolutely being completely butthurt last year in person in studio when I picked the Eagles to win the division, and then they went to the Super Bowl and he was still sad. But either way,
I know. But hey, look, I'll repay the favor now with these picks because I think they actually are very fair. I think the Ravens is just such a weird one because we know that the Ravens can't seem to draft a wide receiver in the first round where it actually works out for them. I think their potential landing spot for D-Hop, just putting it out there, DeAndre Hopkins, Odell Beckham. I think Lamar goes, okay, you give me weapons, I can
I've
work with
heard that he's going to the Bills, and if that happens,
Yeah,
that
well,
is scary.
that is scary if that happens.
Can you imagine Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, and DeAndre Hopkins on the same field at the same time? Like that is an actual all-star team.
You got Gabe Davis as well, like another
Gabe Davis
great
as a
option
third
there.
wide receiver, like that.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
Yeah, no, but look, in regards to these picks, I think the Lions, or sorry, not the Lions, the Vikings going wide receiver. I think that is just again a lock. I think that needs to happen. Justin Jefferson's the guy. We all know that he can do it. He can carry that team, but he's going to need a little bit of help because Thielen would provide that, just whether it be a quick slant or something, an easy option. Like Jefferson can't do it all as much as he's proven that he's that guy. You don't want to overwork your workhorse. And I think if they don't go wide receiver, they might be doing that with Jefferson. So I think to benefit Jefferson and get the best out of him, you got to go wide receiver and give him some help. So yeah, I'm pretty okay with these picks. I think the Ravens could sway wide receiver here, but as I said, past hasn't been too kind to Ravens in regards to their wide receivers. So going for a cornerback could be the play here to pair up with Kyle Hamilton in the secondary. But yeah, I like these picks.
Yeah, for these picks, I have mixed feelings about the Seahawks picks because they do have 2 first-round picks, so you can take a chance here on a Hendon Hooker, who I think is actually going to be really good, even though he's older. So you could take a chance on him and have him sit because, he's got the ACL injury. But at the same time, I mean, if you could get a guy like Deontay Banks here, maybe you pay – in this scenario, they picked a D lineman first round, and then you can help your secondary. I mean, they picked Tariq Wilson last year. That was great.
They took Coby Bryant first round last year too.
The Seahawks have been smashing it, lads. Let's just be honest. These guys are knocking it out of the park with the picks that they're taking.
I just don't see them going corner first round picks 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
Odell's a great signing, but an Odell coming off an injury who's a little older with Bateman and
Andrews maybe.
Duvernay.
Is it
Duvernay is the other guy. I mean, that's better than what they had last year, but I still doesn't sound like a top receiver room to me, even with the addition of Odell. So if they were to go Jordan Addison here or Quentin Johnson or Flowers, I could see it, but I like the picks besides that.
I agree with you, Cobe. And if I was the GM of the Ravens, I would definitely take Jordan Addison with that pick. But at the same time, it's like the Ravens, for whatever reason, just seem to think that like their offense surrounded around Lamar doesn't need a good wide receiver. For whatever reason, and they just gave Odell $20 million. I just don't picture them giving Odell $20 million and then using their first round pick on a wide receiver when the last 5 years, it's been Devin Duvernay is their number one wide receiver. Sammy Watkins is their number one wide receiver. They just don't give a fuck about their wide
neglect the position. Completely neglect it. Like the Packers with wide receivers as well.
Exactly.
I also think that this draft is more receiver heavy than corner heavy. So if they did take Banks in this pick, and then maybe if they have a second or third round pick and they get Tank Dell or the guy out of UNC or something like that, I feel like that could also work out for them, or Hyatt or something. That could work out for them. But yeah, they gotta go receiver and corner in this draft. At least pick one of each in the first 2-3 rounds.
Here we go.
Next 4. All right. Jacksonville Jaguars. Who shout out the Jacksonville Jaguars, by the way. They were obviously in the top 5. I don't remember what number necessarily, but they were in the top 5 last year. Same thing with the Giants, who were the next pick. The Giants and the Jaguars progressed. They went from the top 5 to now they're at pick 24 and 25. So that is what you're supposed to do in the draft. I have the Jaguars taking Emmanuel Forbes, cornerback out of Mississippi State. I think that's a need. I think that is a good pick for them there. I've got the Giants taking Zay Flowers, wide receiver out of Boston College. They have literally 0 wide receivers. They just gave Daniel Jones $40 million a year. They can't have 0 weapons. Richie James, who was their number 1 weapon last year, signed with I forget who, some other team. I think Chiefs. Seattle maybe. Chiefs, yeah. So they need wide receiver. I like Zay Flowers here. Jordan Addison's off the board. Jackson Smith-the-Jig was off the board. So I think that them taking Zay Flowers there is a good pick. And I've got, I hate to say this, by the way, I'm just going to throw that out there because I think this is a great steal, great pick.
I know what this is.
I've got the Cowboys. Taking Bijan Robinson.
Yep.
Obviously, they didn't retain, or I don't remember. They cut Zeke, so they need to fill a void. They have Tony Pollard, but I think that Tony Pollard mixed with Bijan Robinson is a great 1-2 punch. regardless of how I feel about the Cowboys. I think that is a great pick. And, Bijan Robinson is a lot of people's top 3, top 5 best players in this draft overall. It's just the simple fact that he's a running back, that he's going this low. But that is a great pick for the Cowboys there. And if he falls to this pick, that is a major, major slide. So, I don't like that pick, but shout out to the Cowboys. And then I've got the Bills taking Brian Brees, defense tackle out of Clemson. I think that's a good pick for the Bills. That reassures their defensive line. And at the same time, it's like the Bills, they could go in a couple different directions here, but I think that getting Brian Brees, he's the best player on the board, in my opinion, at this pick. And it's also a need. So I think that is a good pick for the Bills. But yeah, fuck the Cowboys. Fuck the Cowboys.
No.
That is a good pick, though.
Tommy,
That is a good
I
pick.
heard that. We got to clip that. I heard shout out the Cowboys.
I was only saying shout out the Cowboys for the simple fact that this is a good pick. And, Bijan Robinson is one of the best players in the draft, and he's falling to 26. But yeah, the Cowboys are still going to be in the NFC East, which is still controlled by the Washington Commanders. So,
oh god,
that's my thoughts.
But there it is.
That might be the worst take I've ever heard.
That's the dig I was waiting.
Shout out Sam Howell. Shout out Dalton Kincaid. Shout out Jahan Dotson. Shout out Terry McLaurin. Eric Bieniemy.
Just a mid team.
Ron Rivera.
Shout out the Cowboys. Shout out the Cowboys.
Scott. Go ahead, Scott.
Look, there's.
Right.
What were you saying, Sam?
I've been asking to jump in for like the last 2.5 minutes, and you guys.
I was just saying, go ahead, Scott, because we were talking about the Cowboys. But
no.
That's fine.
Sounds ready. Sam was rehearsing this in the shower before.
I feel bad now, but all I was gonna say is just 2 things on the last 2 picks. I think Brian Breesy is going to go earlier than this. I think you have him falling back pretty far.
I do have him falling a little bit.
He's another guy with a lot of raw talent. And like I said, I saw him play in high school a few times. He's from around where I live. But yeah, he's very good. And then, hold on, my food just got here. Fuck. But all right, real quickly, I think Bijan Robinson's a better running back than anyone in this draft, obviously, to the point where someone might take a chance on him early.
Prior to 26, I don't necessarily see a team that would pick a running back in the top 25.
I have been in 2 minds, and from everything that I've seen, it's either Bijan Robinson, Michael Mayer. They're the 2 names that I keep seeing tossed up. Jerry wants to make a splash. He likes it. He likes the flashy play. We saw it with CD Lamb. He likes making moves. Last year we were pretty boring. Went offensive line, did the job. Happy out. Not there's not too much to scream and shout about. But I think in this one, the nice element of this as well is that if we go tight ends, like the Giants have Darren Waller now. They're not touching tight end. They have Saquon Barkley. They're not touching running back. So I think if we're in a position here, the Giants actually can't screw the Cowboys over, which makes me feel really good. And I'm not sitting here going, oh my God, is Jordan Davis going to come to the Cowboys and suddenly the Eagles take him? And I feel like I've been hard done by as a Cowboys fan. I don't feel like I'm going to get that this year. So I'm looking forward to that. But I think with Zeke out the picture now, a part of me wants to see how Pollard can cope in the backfield on his own and as the workhorse. But I think if you pair him with Robinson, it's going to be explosive. And we can go back to being a run-dependent team, which I would love to see. We haven't seen sparks from the Cowboys run game when Pollard's not in it. And when Zeke is in it, it goes down a notch. So this is the type of running back. Look, the Cowboys have done this before in the past. We're not shy taking a running back early. We've done it with Zeke. I watched that draft when I was 16, thought it was the coolest thing ever. It was all the flash, the glitz, the glam. That's all the screams with Dallas Cowboys. We are that team. We want to make a noise. We want to, be the team that makes the crazy pick. It's going to be a player that you're probably going to have in your fantasy football team as we go into next season. So I'm cool with it. I'm happy with it. And I think Bijan Robinson falls to the Cowboys. I'll be feeling very good. The one team I will have my eye on is the Buccaneers prior to this, because I think that they could potentially with Lenny, but who knows? That's my take on it. What you got, Tone? I can see you're ready to go.
I'm trying to think of teams that could take him before, and the Eagles are a team, especially with all these rumors of Derrick Henry, but they don't have a running back right now.
True.
So, and they got 2 first-round picks. I don't know. Maybe they try and move up at 31 to try and get in front of the Cowboys here and screw them over, as you'd say. But the Eagles are a team that always kind of circles back to me that might be interested in taking Bijan. Going to the Jaguars pick, Forbes is one of my favorite players. The only problem with him is he weighs $160. I think that's going to scare a lot of teams in the first round. He's going to have to tackle dudes like Nick Chubb that are 260 pounds and squat 600 pounds. And that's 4 times his body weight. But he's one of my favorite players. But that being said, he's probably one of the riskiest guys in the draft.
I've got him at 180 via ESPN.
ESPN's wrong. He weighs literally 160. It's frightening. And then I like Bijan going to the Cowboys. He fills a need. Like Scott said, Michael Mayer is also a great pick there. I've been high on Mayer for a long time. I kind of hope he falls to 32, but I don't think he will. Bills taking – I don't – see, Sam thinks he's going to go earlier, Brian Brees, but I don't know. There's a problem with guys who have really good first years and then they start to slowly decline. That's where it gets
had other circumstances going on.
Well,
Remember,
I mean, yeah, he's obviously had a ton of like this past year is crazy for him, and it was a lot of adversity for him with his sister, and then he also had issues with his kidneys. But at the same time, like, and then he tore his ACL sophomore year. I don't know. He's banged up a lot. He's a medical risk for any team in the first round, in my opinion, because all teams, your first round pick, it's got to be a guy who can make a difference right away and someone that you can depend on. And I just don't know if he's a guy you can depend on medically. So that's the risk behind that pick.
Let's go to the next 4. So I've got Cincinnati here taking Michael Mayer, alluded to earlier, tight end out of Notre Dame, tight end University. I think that he is a great pick for the Bengals here. They lost Hayden Hurst. They had the best wide receiver room, arguably, in the NFL. Adding another weapon to that, Michael Mayer is a great tight end out of Notre Dame. I think that he is a great fit for the Bengals. I've got the Saints taking Myles Murphy, defensive end, edge rusher out of Clemson. I think that he fits well. They have a lot of needs as well. They lost a lot of guys this year. And, they're kind of in a rebuilding stage as well in a bad division. We've got the Eagles. If they don't trade out of this pick, this is an interesting spot. They kind of, could go a couple different directions here. I got them taking Will McDonald, another edge rusher out of Iowa State. They have an Iowa State connection with Nick Sirianni. I think that this is just a good pick. He's one of the best players on the board here. And you can't have enough edge rushers. I think that, again, Brandon Graham's 35, 36, and Hassan Reddick's also like 28, 29. So I think that this is a good pick here. He's a great player. And then, again, another pick that I don't like personally, but a great pick for the team. I've got Jamar Gibbs going to the Kansas City Chiefs here at pick 31. And they lost Juju to the Patriots here in free agency. And I just think that them putting Jamar Gibbs in this offense will be absolutely terrifying. And I don't want to see it, but I think that's what's going to happen. He's kind of a Tyreek Hill clone, ran a 4.3 at the combine. I really like him. I kind of hope that he falls one more pick to the Steelers. I don't think we would take him, but I really like him. So
I don't want to be that guy. But don't you have the Eagles taking Nolan Smith?
I have them doubling up on edge rushers. But
you do? All right, I just wanted to make sure.
I only have that because Hassan Reddick and Brandon Graham are both kind of, like 30 plus. So
yeah,
that's my only reasoning. But yeah, it's kind of like I wouldn't be surprised at all if the Eagles trade out of that spot. So
all right, I see what you're saying. But yeah, Will McDonald, he's a great player. Really was put on the scene at the Senior Bowl. He's a valuable edge rusher. Jamar Gibbs, that'd be a great pick. I personally prefer Gibbs over Robinson just because Najee and Robinson are similar. I'm saying for the Steelers, but Robinson's still a great player. Gibbs is a different type of back. He's
I've seen comparisons to kind of Alvin Kamara, that type of
I would say
I almost had the Saints taking him. If the Saints took him, that would be Alvin Kamara Jr. But
2.0, yeah.
But I think he's a great player. I mean, we could easily see the Chiefs taking a receiver. It's weird thinking about now how the Chiefs really don't have any wide receivers after losing Juju. And then, I mean, yeah, they got Valdez-Scantling and Jalen Watson, but those are role players in my opinion.
They've got Tony, who's kind of similar to Gibbs, but.
And then the Bengals taking Mayer. I hope that doesn't happen just because he'd give the Steelers fits for, at least the next 4 years.
All right. Well, hey, by the way, I have the Steelers taking Ringo here at corner out of Georgia, but I think that we don't know what's going to happen.
Shout out Tommy. Actually, shout out Tommy for putting that together because fair play. It was a fair bit of data that went into that. And that was a very respectable draft. And I think a lot of us I think more of us agree with you and disagree on that, which is probably a first for the boys upstairs, you know?
I appreciate that, Scott. I appreciate that. I did, try to take my time, put my all into this because Tony is an NFL scout. I knew that he was going to come correct, so I wanted to make sure that I wasn't just bullshitting. But yeah, I mean, who knows what's going to happen? Honestly, like the potential of 4 quarterbacks going in the first 4 picks is insane, but that's what I think is going to happen. So who knows? But I'm excited. Shout out you guys for watching. Like and subscribe. I know this is going to be a ball buster to edit because it's like 2 hours, but what can you do? I'm excited for the draft. It's an exciting time for NFL football. So, yeah.
Let's go.
Tough.